To accept the difference of people is to accept humanity. To obtain knowledge of different languages is accepting your notion that you are no longer alone. Hello, my name is Gustin Gumas, and I will be answering assignment 3. Assignment 3 has to deal with Ebonics. Now, I will be laying out this video in chronological order based upon the layout of the work. Now let's begin with the analysis between AAE and SAE in the elements or lack thereof. Okay. Now people speaking AAE generally like to add new terminology compared to SAE where we have fixed terminology. In AAE, these people like to drop and replace sounds, verbs, and consonants. And SAE, ours, our standard English that we learn in the school. There's also a strong use of negation in AAE and zero use of cupolas. Now compared to SAE, their syntax is much shorter. Now those are the main differences I will be discussing in this first prompt. Now I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper. Number 2 of 1 says, remember to focus and discuss differences, not defect. And it's a little funny for me because then I would be discussing how defective I am because I have adopted some of AAE's ways of expressing myself. Now these people who speak this language aren't indifferent when speaking. It just takes a couple meetings to understand what's being announced. I had a hard time myself understanding it at first, but I would like to say I have a good grasp on the language now. For instance, listening to rap music, I pick up some of the terminology. Like when Lil Wayne says Tunchi, or Rick Ross says double cup, or when 2 Chainz says I got purple in my cup. You have to physically listen to their music and other songs to understand what they're saying. So that's some of the lexicon that AAE adds to their form of American English. Another instance, I myself like to use negation. Ain't a word that I'm not familiar with. The no and no's. So, for instance, people use the language, I ain't going home, or I ain't gone home yet. It's a way of expressing yourself, and it's a way these people and myself like to use. Now, the other one is the dropping of consonants and vowels. For instance, that turns to dat. She angry, where at first it was she is angry. Or for instance, you's the one complaining versus you are the one complaining. So it's just a lot different way of speaking. It's ingrained in them that they know what they're talking about. It's now getting ingrained into me to understand what some of my friends are talking about now. And then, like we said earlier, the syntax of speech is much shorter. Let me just give you a sentence off the top of my head that I'm used to. You gonna hoop before this work, Gustin? Whereas my friend Cruz is saying, do you want to play basketball before we do our homework? Something I've picked up, something that a normal SAE native speaker would not. I just have a unique form of both from experience. Now, like I said before, the way of speaking is smooth. It runs with the rest of the words. It has a bit of swing to it. And I mainly think this is because of the terminology and where it comes from, hip-hop music. It's lyrical, it's rhythmic. It's just the way AAE people talk. Now let's get one thing straight. I mentioned my buddy Cruz earlier. He talks like an AAE person, but he's white. Not all AAE people are black. My friend Cruz had grown up in an all-black community. Just because he's white doesn't mean he's biologically according to talk SAE. No, he talks AAE, and I don't think anything different of him. Number two, why is there an asterisk in front of AAE? Because all languages are unique, making this unique, allowing the reader, us, to know who is studying or looking at this form of AAE, making it regional. Now I'm going to dive into the movement that the Oakland School Board brought in, and that is question number 3. Back in 1996, Oakland School Board did not get this ball started, but what they did do was they stuck it in to aim it at the right spotlight. The school district noticed and stepped forward on understanding the different patterns of language all the students brought from home. We have learned in this class that the sound house is formed and not established, and is established before kids get to school. The teachers in Oakland noticed this, and what they saw is too much, and it was too hard to change. So instead, the program needed to change. Programs in Oakland were on the rise to ensure that students' safety and obtaining the utmost when facing their academics. As mentioned in the movie, they soon became the #1 African-based school district in America to achieve greatness in the classroom based upon their newly found programs. The motivation was to become better and become noticed. The goal was reached, but like all goals, is still on the rise. Now, since they had to bring into the spotlight this new program, it brought around some controversies. Worldwide panic, actually, in both white and African American cultures. It was a problem because people did not understand. The words around the movement were too powerful to break past the biased nature of human beings. What was being taught was that the curriculum was being changed to address the illiterate minds of the area. I find that rude because that's asking someone to change who they are instead of the misminded people coming to know their unique neighbors. I speak and use terms of the language AAE because I like to, a message that I can uniquely call mine. But the focus got taken away from the center circle and got misconstrued, making it a big mess, misinforming people of what was trying to be done. It turned into a more political movement in the eyes of others when looking at the black community, instead of changing what is wrong within the school's societal system of learning. Not everyone is white, and not everyone grows up that way. So why do we rob children and make them feel unwelcome at such a young and critical learning age in the time of period of growth? This is how our book reflects, and this is how I also see the issues of this matter. School bosses, world leaders, but not so much the media with millennials and our abusive nature of social media. But everything else I've mentioned shuts down for those of AAE native tongue. Right now, with the lack of widely accepted education that I too had been robbed from, the only choice of meshing in is fitting in. Not saying that it is needed 100% adopting, but it is a situational circumstance that people must adapt to as of right now. Addressed at the end of the chapter and addressed at the end of my video, this is hurting those of original, unique, pattern-speaking languages who come into school and are told what they are doing is wrong, making them feel unwelcome, shutting them down from learning. Learning is the ultimate goal when going to school, and if we need to put forward a system to where we need to teach people of how all of the languages in America are spoken, well, then I believe too that it is needed. People, more importantly, kids should not be told no at such a young age when they are so fragile and pretty much like a sponge when picking up information. Experiences matter, and experiences matter most at a young age. Now that is all I have to apply today. I thank you, and I would like to wish you adieu. Bye-bye now.